Nyathi is a Zimbabwean-born, bred and in South Africa-based writer whose debut book, The Polygamist, opened doors for her as a black African female author. The Gold Diggers is her second novel, and in this book, she narrates the lives of a group of different Zimbabwean migrants who flee the country's 2008 economic demise by fleeing to South Africa to seek a better life in the city of gold, Johannesburg. Without giving much of the story away, Sue joins me now in studio to help us unpack this book. A very good morning to you, Sue. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. How are you?
You said you wanted to write from as early as 8 years old. How did the love for literature manifest itself, leading to you writing some of the bestsellers?
I think it started with reading. I think most writers are readers, and I used to love reading. I spent a lot of time in the library growing up.
Okay.
And so, later, I sort of just drifted into my own little world and started writing. But initially, how it started was, just cutting out pictures from magazines and writing stories around them. And then, eventually I graduated to actually developing characters and then writing full-fledged stories.
Now, this book tells a story about the different challenges that Zimbabwean people experience in a foreign land. Without giving much away, do you give us a synopsis of this book, of what it's all about?
So essentially, The Gold Diggers charts the journey of six characters, different characters. We have Dumisani, the professional, who's trying to, make it, rich in Johannesburg. We have Portia traveling with her son. They're hoping to be reunited with her husband to live happily ever after. Then there's Lindani, who's escaping the ghosts of her past, not knowing that, more terror lies ahead. And then we have the twins, Chamnora and Chinai, who are running away from their torrid past. But they don't know that the future they're running into is equally horrendous. And so, and Melusi, and he's the guy who carries them from Bulawayo, where they depart from, across the border illegally. And finally they arrive here and to explore, and then I take the readers, through a journey to explore the different paths that they take and where life takes them here in Johannesburg.
And I see there's also similarities between you and Portia. I mean, you both left Zimbabwe to escape the financial difficulties in that country. Take us through that.
I think the only similarity with me and Portia is I woke up, one day. I mean, at that point in my life, I was a lecturer at the university. And it was a case of waking up and having to change your salary on the black market. Because at that time, your money was losing value every single day.
Yeah.
And I think that's, I also felt like, Portia, is this it, for me? I mean, is this what life has for me? Is this going to be the rest of my life? I mean, look, I didn't have a son like Portia at that point, but, I was 29 and I used to read a lot of magazines like True Love, and I would see women my age and where they were. And I was thinking to myself, there should be more to life than this. And so, that also spurred my decision to leave. Yeah.
Okay. You also explore other issues such as human trafficking, xenophobia. Why do you think it's so important for you to highlight these issues through your book?
It's giving a voice, to the voiceless. I mean, if you think about child trafficking, you read about it all the time, but it doesn't really touch you until I put a face to it. And Guguletu does that, the character in my book. And suddenly, child trafficking actually has new meaning to you because it actually touches you in a different way than it would when you just read about it in the newspaper and you dismiss it. But Guguletu stays with you. And so, I was trying to personalize it and, make it, and try, that's what I was trying to do.
And it's interesting how you managed to, to make the fictitious characters quite believable. How did you do that?
I find characterization is extremely important when you're writing. And so for me, my characters are very important. So I sketch them, I know when they're born, what they like, what they dislike. And because if they're not real to you, you're not going to believe them and the story's not going to be believable. So, it's a very important part of my writing process.
Apart from a writer, I do understand that you also have a 9-to-5. You are an investment analyst, isn't it?
Yeah.
So how do you manage to juggle both? Because they're both demanding.
They are indeed demanding, and it's a tough balancing act. And I always tell people that it's not easy. I mean, I actually started writing this book prior to giving birth to my son. That was, in 2013, just before I got pregnant. And I only finished it in 2016. Okay. And so I was, I couldn't do much writing when I was on maternity leave. I mean, you can imagine juggling a baby and a book, writing a book. And when I started working again full time, I could only write like in the morning. I'm one of those people who needs total silence when they're writing. So the best time for me to write was at 3 a.m. and 6 a.m.
Really?
You know, that time my son was asleep and it's quiet at that time and I can really concentrate. But you can imagine, you know, 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. then you getting ready for work. You've got a full day ahead. You know, it's quite an exhausting process.
So most of your work, is it a personal reflection of your life or is it just something that you see on the streets on a daily basis?
You mean my writing?
Yes.
It is very observational. I mean, I have a keen interest on social issues. So for me, you know, I write about what I see, what I experience. Might not be necessarily personal to me, but it certainly affects other people, you know, and I feel like just because it doesn't affect me doesn't mean I can't write about it. Yeah. Okay. So it's important as well to be able to put it out there, you know, for those people. So give those, I mean, illegal immigrants here don't have a voice, you know, because you're like a ghost. I mean, if something happens to you, you can't exactly go report it because you're also not supposed to be here, you know. So in a way, you're giving a voice to the voiceless.
Right. You'll also be speaking to the Open Book Festival in September. What does it mean to you?
I mean, it's great to be invited to all these platforms to talk about my book. I mean, I don't know how to describe it. I think, you know, every writing is such a lonely process. So, you know, the only time when you get to interact with the audiences, it's nice and to actually hear what their thoughts are. Because remember, when you write, you're alone. And when it's finally out there and people read it, and then that's the only time you get to interact with the reader. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it.
Well done on giving the voice to the voiceless.
Thank you so much.
This is an absolute masterpiece. I must give that to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sue.
Okay.
That's writer Sue Nyathi, and she's speaking to us about her second novel titled The Gold Diggers, a heartbreaking book that tells the story of Zimbabwean migrants and, of course, their experiences living in South Africa. The book is now available in all the major bookstores across South Africa.